Hi, I'm Fred Snople, and I'm going to be talking about the African slave trade and plantation life in order to give you some background on the novel Oroonoko by Aphra Behn. Since Oroonoko is set during the European colonization of Africa, slavery plays a large part in the life of the characters portrayed. To start, let's go over how slavery worked internally to Africa. Africans could be enslaved for several reasons. Failure to pay back a debt and involvement in illegal activities could result in the offending individual spending several years or even their entire life enslaved. Prisoners captured as a result of the constant tribal warfare were also treated as slaves and were often has lower quality of life than the ones that were in there for different like regular crimes or debt. This isn't quite as bad as it sounds, however. Slaves in Africa were treated as indentured servants in most cases and would even be considered part of the household. Children of slaves born in this situation could become closely attached to the family and even rise to prominent positions in society. This level of respect was not given by Europeans to the slaves they purchased, as you will see later in the presentation. The transatlantic slave trade was the way by which African slaves were transported to the New World. Europeans would trade manufactured goods to Africans in exchange for slaves before transporting those slaves across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas. Most of the slaves sold in this manner were captured as a result of tribal warfare, since these slaves were not thought of as highly as ones internal to a tribe. Europeans would also raid the shores themselves, but this was more rare as this action could anger the tribes they do business with if they captured the wrong person, say someone very important to the leader of the local area. The main character in this story is a victim of an orthodox type of raid, and that is the method by which he travels to the New World himself. Orinoco is sent to a colony called Suriname, which is located in the northeastern part of South America, as you can see on the graphic on the right. This colony was primarily used for sugar growth, which was one of the harshest assignments a slave could be given in this time. The sugar plantation demanded around-the-clock shifts during harvest season, and the sugar itself was processed using similar safety standards as the early Industrial Revolution. It was very not safe, and there wasn't much thought given to the safety of the slaves themselves. Next to some of the machinery, there was a slave with a machete who would cut off the limb of a slave if it got stuck in a machine, so their entire body would not be pulled in. It's a very tragic series of events involving that. If someone was unfortunate enough to come in contact with the molten sugar and not the machinery, they would might survive, but they would have to endure the sugar until it cooled down and it could be scraped off that way because it was too sticky to pull off while molten. Luckily for Onoko, he avoids most of the worst of this as he is treated as a as a domestic slave by his owner. He is taken around, shown to hunt, and he's given a lot better treatment than a lot of his fellows, which was common to domestic slaves, but a bit more so to Orinoco because they thought that he was the royal slave, name of the novel. Due to Orinoco's dissatisfaction as well as others, there was a revolt in the colony in the story. Slave revolts were not uncommon in this period due to the harsh conditions as well as the general lack of freedom that these people were used to enjoying taken away from them. While they were often unsuccessful, but several of them would leave a deep impact upon the Europeans nearby and hold them up for a long period of time. The Haitian Revolution was a special example. Toussaint Overture led his people to freedom from the French permanently. He established his own nation of Haiti by pushing the French out, and he repelled a second invasion afterwards. Suriname, in real life, actually also had a slave rebellion which kept the Dutch busy for 30 years, another fairly significant impact the slaves could impart upon their European captors. If the rebellion failed, however, the ringleaders were put in a very bad situation. Most of the slaves wouldn't be physically punished because that would lower the output of the plantation itself. So their ringleaders themselves were just put through brutal execution methods. You'll see one in the story, and it's not pretty, but it's essentially what you would imagine to see in medieval times or Roman stuff with the brass bowl and leaving people out to be eaten by the crows. Similar methods are taken in order to keep slave revolts from happening again. But yeah, I hope this gives you a good bit of background about the story, and here are my references if you wish to look through any of them. See you next time.